Hello, everybody. What is up? Cobra Wargaming here. Um, Now, this is the part 2 video of my progress on my Ancient Warfare or Ancient Empires game. And as you can see, a lot has changed since the last time you guys have seen it now. I'm pretty sure I remember just there were being basically the two land masses, being the grasslands of Europe and the deserts of the North African and Middle East frontiers. But as we can see, it's been a week and a half now, and I've spent a lot of work on this. Now, I'm sorry I can't show this to you in the highest resolution. I ended up just saving an image of it before I closed out of the map making program that I've been using. But yeah, basically, you can see that there's a lot more that has been added, and I'll just go into like another little quick video similar to last time, just kind of going over the overview of what I've done. So, I guess starting with kind of the map features I've added, as you can see, we have mountains that have been put in, and again, keeping with that realistic kind of art style, I really like how this came out, where you've got these like 3D mountain type looking deals. So, and it was very tedious painting every single one of these mountains. I actually streamed a couple of videos, basically documenting me painting, and I was talking and stuff like that. So if you're interested in checking out those streams, then leave a comment down below, and I'll link my my Twitch stream to you guys if you are interested. But yeah, basically, after painting in all these little trees and mountains and everything, we've got this final product. Now, you can see we've got all these mountains, and the territory lines kind of help. They follow terrain features, so you've got like territories that are just all mountains, making up these mountain ranges. We've also got forest territories, and now all these territories and rivers too. All these territories will basically um, have different attributes. If you played global, it'll be similar to that, but with a different mix on it. I know one thing I definitely want is mountains to be not fun to pass. Like basically one of the biggest things, like thinking about maybe Hannibal's trip to Italy, where he lost a ton of his army, almost a little more than half of his army, crossing the Alps to get to Italy. So stuff similar to that, maybe even like with larger ranges like the Alps being worse to cross than some more minor ranges. Yeah, but then with forests, probably having some little maybe defensive bonus. The biggest thing with forests that I know right off the bat is that they're going to be probably worth some money, like IPCs. In this game, they'll probably be called talents because that was the Roman currency at the time. And also, they would be required to build ships. So, like, let's say the Carthaginian player, which would control this North African or Western North Africa here, if they wanted to build a ship with this forest here, they would have to have it connected to a land zone they own. So let's say they owned this land zone here by the water, they could build a ship in the Mediterranean. And then also there's some coastal forests where you'd just be able to dump a ship into the water from there. So yeah, rivers also play a big role in this game. You can see that, of course, compared to other Axis and Allies games, this game has a ton of territories. So you may think, it would take forever to move around this map, but one of the cool things that I'm taking from the Roman or the Fall of the Empire game is basically infrastructure. So you'll be able to build cities and roads will help you to be able to almost like use them like rails in Global 36, where you'll be able to move units around really fast on roads. And rivers basically form a natural road. So if you control territories along a river, so you can see if Carthage controlled this territory here where the rivers meet the ocean, along with the territories down the mountain range, they would be able to basically quickly move units down the river to help out, or maybe just go and garrison some towns inland. So yeah. So then also getting over to Egypt. Egypt will be another faction in the game, so they'll control this large swath of territory here. We got the nice Nile, which will be like the vital link of Egypt, being able to quickly move units down into the desert. And some territories will have a trade bonus. So you can see here with the Nile will have, or the territory here that kind of where the Nile leaves the map, will have a big bonus because of the fact that if you control that territory and all the Cairo will be in the first desert territory, So if you control the territories that go from Cairo down off the map, you're basically getting trade from places like Ethiopia and sub-Saharan Africa. Another territory that comes to mind would be up here near the Black Sea, I'm pretty sure, or the Caspian Sea. I'm not sure now. I do not know my seas well, but basically there would be a Silk Road bonus. So if you control one of the territories here, which would probably be the Sassanid Empire, which is another faction that would be placed up in the kind of Anatolian region, Middle Eastern region, and they would start out with the trade bonus of being connected to China. So they would get a bonus basically for controlling that territory. But of course, if say the Greeks or the Romans came in here and took a territory, they would be able to get that Silk Road trade bonus. So yeah, you can see some territories are a lot more drastic than others. With Egypt being a big swath of desert plains, the little bit of trees, whereas you've got places like Anatolia or modern day Turkey where you've got these raised forests, you've got all these mountains all over the place. Definitely a lot harder to traverse, and also landing. Another feature that I want to work in is when a mountain range is right up against the coastline, you won't be able to land there. So with Turkey or Anatolia, there's not a lot of places you're just going to be able to dump off troops. So yeah, and then moving up into Central Europe here, we've got the Greeks. Now, the Greeks, what I'm planning on doing with them is forming a sort of union. So instead of having like the Greeks, it wasn't the Bulgarians, but basically the Bulgarian region had its own little kingdom set up. And then also Greece had some little trading colonies in Gaul and Spain, and all of those territories will basically just be under one Greek empire flag in the game. And Greek will have some little little things that kind of differentiate it from other powers. Like one thing I kind of saw that was a good idea from, I think it was Pax Romana, where Greece has two capitals, basically representing the fact that it's multiple nations kind of built into this one empire that you'll be playing as. Yeah, and you've got little strategic islands down here with Rhodes and Crete, the Aegean Sea. These islands you'll actually be able to land on and everything. So yeah, getting into Europe, it's a complex maze of mountains and trees, and definitely a great place to go and conquer for people like the Romans and the Greeks. The Greeks are definitely in a less strategic sense. They're kind of they start off on a little bit of the back foot during the game, but yeah, with the Romans, you're going to be able to go out, conquer Gaul, try to conquer the Germanic tribes, which of course will be pretty dastardly. It'll be difficult to push through these forests and mountains, clearing them out if you really decide to go do that. And then of course Iberia and Britain up here. But yeah, one thing I guess I'll go into a little bit is just kind of what I want the political situation to be starting off. Of course, it'll be a free for all in terms of you can make uh, friendships with any of your other players, but it's really in the end of the game is just can you get your empire to survive and be the best in this world. So the Carthaginians will definitely start off as the strongest. They'll almost be like the Germany in these games where they won't have the greatest economy. Like if they get into like a major war with like multiple people, they're not going to have a great time supplying themselves, but they'll start with basically this whole West North African tip that you see here. They get most of Sardinia, or yeah, um, and then Corsica up there, and bits of Iberia here in the mountain ranges and near modern day Gibraltar, along with the Balearics. So they'll definitely start off with a pretty decent, navy. They had one of the strongest navies at the time in the 260s during at the start of the First Punic War. And yeah, so they've definitely got some decent, room to grow in terms of conquering Iberia, pushing further inland, and then also building their navy up. But at the same time, once they start losing units, it's going to be difficult to keep repopulating. If they get pushed out of Iberia, they've got three like kind of forest territories to build ships. So yeah, they're definitely not in the greatest position if they start getting pounded by other players. Moving to Egypt, Egypt is going to be a pretty, like, I guess, and also the Sassanids, they'll kind of both start in these fairly decent positions, kind of like, they have enough forces to defend themselves if, say, the Greeks tried to come down and just raid the the Nile Delta. They would basically have, the navy power and the army to push that back off the shores, but they're not going to be in the greatest position in terms of just being able to, Egypt isn't going to be able to march across the North African frontier turn one and try to conquer the Carthaginians. The Sassanids also will start in a fairly decent position, but again, nothing too powerful. And plus, they're kind of boxed in by the mountain ranges. Most of the Anatolian kind of large peninsula here is going to be kind of neutral with tribes. So if they want to start pushing in, they're going to have to conquer these mountain territories, which would definitely give them something to do. Plus, starting the game, the Sassanids and the Egyptians are the only players that would share borders, so they'd probably have to start off the game on fairly friendly terms because of the fact that they don't have a ton of units to go on an offensive war, and they have a land border. So if one of them starts to get ugly, then both of them can basically start taking each other apart, and at that point, other players can try to capitalize on that conflict. The Greeks would definitely start in a good position, but kind of like the Carthaginians, they would start they would almost be a little better than the Carthaginians. The only problem is that they would not at all have the resources to defend. So the first turn, they're going to look at their borders. They're going to think that they're on top of the world. Basically they're going to have all this modern day Greece, Bulgaria up here, maybe a little bit into Romania. Of course, the Aegean Islands, they'll all be under control of Greece. Plus, they had some trading outposts over in Iberia and Sicily, so also Gaul. So basically, they would start with like a lot of places to basically get some tax revenue and everything right off the bat. They also start with the southern tip of the Italian peninsula, and so basically they start with a lot of potential. The only problem is that their armies and navies start over here in Greece, whereas their poorly defended colonies out in the Mediterranean and even in Italy, even though it's right there, basically would start fairly undefended, with a small little garrison, but nothing that the Carthaginians or the Romans won't be able to handle. The Romans, lastly, are kind of the premier power. If you're the Romans, you want to try to recreate the Roman Empire. But they would definitely start on the underfoot. They're almost like, or on the back foot. They're kind of like, I see them as the Britain in, 1936 or Global 40. And basically how they're going to work is they start out with like half the Italian peninsula, like the northern regions, and of course the southern regions are Greek occupied. So it's basically up to them early game to kick out the Greeks, establish dominance over the Italian peninsula, which would be worth a decent amount of IPCs, a lot of cities and everything on this. And then from there start kind of going out, maybe taking out some of the Greek colonies in Gaul, and from there maybe pushing Gaul. And with Iberia, even though they do have a land route to Iberia, I think the best kind of strategy for them early game on this side of the board in dealing with Carthage is basically to push across Gaul, establish this kind of seaboard here as a defensive network, and then get to these mountains and just kind of set up a defense. And then from there, as you start to try to consolidate, whittle down the Carthaginian navy, at that point you can start trying to push and establish further claims. Places like Britain, now, I know that they weren't called. This game would start in the 260s BC, so at that point, places like Britain would not have been largely explored at the time. And even though in this game you will be able to go up there if you want turn one to try to establish dominance up there, the problem is that this game is definitely going to be structured in a sense of, yes, the Carthaginians have a fleet and a decent army, so they could, from North Africa send some ships up and land on the British Isles. But the problem is that now their fleet in the Mediterranean is weaker, their armies are weaker, and Britain is full of hostile tribes that will be under the control of other players now, trying to kick the Carthaginians out. So uh, basically, stuff like conquering is going to be a difficult thing in this game. So you're definitely going to want to consolidate your claims at home, and then when you have overwhelming superiority, that's when you can start, marching through the mountains and kicking out tribal warriors in these regions to establish cities and everything and grow your empire. But yeah, that was a quick little understanding of this game, and I hope you guys enjoyed my look into this. And if you want to see more, then definitely comment down below if you have some cool ideas for, more, uh, units, basically gameplay, stuff like how battles should work. Definitely leave it down below, and I'll definitely be reading all those comments. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys again. Cobra out.